The nature of work is changing dramatically. The world that we were prepared for in the schooling system is completely going away because of technology. Every single society reflects the technology that is the technology of the day. So if you go back in time to the Roman era, the Roman technology created the Roman society. If we go to the technology of the agricultural age, it was the agricultural age technology that created the agricultural age society. The industrialization technology created the industrialized society. Now, one of the things that we got from the industrial age society was the career arc. Now, basically, here's what they thought was going to be the plan for most people most of the time. They thought you would do about 12 to 15 years worth of education, then you'd do about 25 years worth of work, then you would be in a management or leadership role for about 10 to 15 years. Then you'd retire. You'd have about 15 years before you passed away. And essentially they could plan around all of that. That's the whole planning around retirement and pensions and the entire tax structure and the way they allocate resources and the way they plan. All of it is based around that sort of career arc. However, in the digital age, we no longer have those kind of career loops. What we have is these different fast, high velocity loops. And what we need to do is educate kids that essentially they don't get paid for doing that long arc of a career. They get paid for completing very fast little loops. So what is a loop? The two things that matter, by the way, the two things are loops and groups. Let me talk about loops and groups. So the first one is loops. A loop is where you identify a problem, you research the problem, you put together a team, you put together the technology, you then scale the solution, and then you exit, and you go through that as quick as possible. So you might notice that there's this problem that relates to recruitment, and you say, okay, well, let's research the problem. Let's put together a team of people who could solve it. Let's come up with some technology. Let's scale the solution. Let's sell that business to somebody else. Now, the amount of money you could make in that loop has nothing to do with how much time you've spent waiting. It has everything to do with the speed and the velocity and the scale of solving that problem. So solving meaningful problems at scale is ultimately what we get paid for now. Some people are going to make more in 3 years than most people make in an entire 30 or 40 year career because they solve a big loop, and they can do that all very, very rapidly. In fact, the faster you can solve things at a higher scale, the more money you make. So we need to teach people about solving problems and completing those little loops. With the use of AI, you can have multiple loops on the go at any given time. You could have a loop called writing a book. You could have a loop called running a festival. You could have a loop called launching a podcast, creating a piece of software. You could have a loop called launching a business and selling it, right? So those are those creative loops, and the faster you can complete those, the more money you make. And then the other element of this is groups. So the schooling system prepares us for doing everything on our own, and it says you have to take every test by yourself. It says don't be a disruptor. You need to be a compliant cog in the machine. And yet, once we get into the digital economy, we take every test as a collaborative team, and we have to become disruptive. We have to get attention, right? So all of those things that are highly paid skills, we kind of teach kids to not do those things, which is crazy because being compliant and being a little cog in the machine doesn't pay the bills anymore. We have to learn how to create disruptive intellectual property, media, technology, software, create these loops. The second element is groups, which is your ability to put together teams and to iterate those teams up quickly. So the ability to find a co-collaborator as a scout team, and then turn a scout team into a fire starting team, and then turn a fire starting team into a core team, and then turn a core team into a performance team, and then create multiple performance teams. So all of that is essentially your ability to group people together who are committed to solving the problem. Now, the reason that this is changing and unique is because in the industrial age, a group of people only really worked on one thing, and they were exclusive to that thing for a long period of time. In the digital age, a group of people could be all individually working on multiple things, and they may be with that project for a very short time, depending on how fast they can complete that loop. So essentially, we have a completely new dynamic on how we get paid, which is loops, and how we collaborate, which is these new types of groups. So those are kind of like the two cornerstone skills that we need to bring out in our kids, and we need to learn those skills ourselves as well. So fast, high velocity loops of completion of creative loops, and high velocity team creation, which is groups.